Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live on SHR Media and streaming live on Facebook. Today is a special show because it's a special CPAC 2020 edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I also have a live guest, Mr. Eric Rigard. He is running for California State Assembly District 9. So we have Mr. Rigard, who's going to be on tap along with some interviews from CPAC. And so without further ado, I have 5 interviews from CPAC. So the first one I want to give you is John Matze. He's the CEO of Parler.com. And if you're wondering what Parler.com is, Parler is he brands it as the alternative to Twitter. And I have to say, I used it and it was pretty handy dandy. I liked it a lot. It's pretty cool. It's Parler.com. It's Parler.com. And I had the privilege of interviewing the CEO, John Matze. He was at CPAC. So without further ado, John Matze. Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. This is your business diva, Colette. I'm here with the one and only John Matze, who just so happens to be the CEO of the brand new social media app Parler, Parler. Get it right now. Download it right now. All of your friends are going to have it. It's very similar to Twitter, but it is the alternative to Twitter. It's the conservative. Would you say the conservative alternative, or
no? I like to call us the competitor. So we're not the alternative. We are their competitor.
Ooh, I like that even better. Well, welcome to Money Talk with Melanie, John Matze.
Thank you.
Please tell me, and that's John Matze, Matze. If you guys want to look him up, and that's Parler, Parler.
Yes, I'm at John, and you are at, was it Money Talk?
At Money Talk Mel.
Perfect. Yep. Awesome.
So, what made you think of that we had a need for something like Parler?
Well, it started out with publications right around 2016. It was in 2017 when all these media outlets were trying to make money off the internet creating articles, and they were losing it because Facebook was changing their algorithms all the time. So they changed their algorithms, and all of a sudden a media outlet that would have 5 million views went to like 1 million or even less. So it was just this sudden algorithmic change that destroyed these businesses. So we thought, we need to create some kind of way to compete with that. And that kind of led to us realizing that Twitter was really open for a competitor. And so that's when we started to really kind of throw ourselves out there. And there's things that we do a lot better than they do. For example, we allow people to have bigger videos and pictures, and content's larger. And our biggest differentiator is we allow free speech, which is what they don't do. Free speech and privacy. So when you go on the internet, you see all these creepy ads that seem to be following you around. Like you just mentioned, you looked up you looked up Gavin Nunes, who happens to be on the app as well. You looked up Gavin Nunes, and then you're like, why am I seeing all this stuff about him? We don't do the creepy tracking that everyone else does, which I think is really important. And people monetize these platforms by selling your data, selling your information, selling who you are, or just giving it away outright for free sometimes too, which is, I think, a violation of your trust and a violation of your property.
No, I agree with you on that. Now, I want to go back a little bit. We talked a lot about algorithms. For those people who are not programmers, can you explain what an algorithm is in the context of social media?
Sure, yeah. The biggest problem with algorithms that exist on other platforms like Facebook and Twitter is your timeline. So your timeline, you as a person who are using social media believe that your timeline should be some kind of list of things from people that you follow, right? It should be your, I don't know, you said I follow this person, so when you post, that person posts, you expect to see it on your timeline.
Yes, I do.
But that's not how it works. They have an algorithm that says, I know you follow all these people and all these people are posting, but we feel like this person's content is more important to you, so we're going to prioritize it over someone else's content. And what that lets them do is say, we also, as a company, don't like this content, so we're going to deprioritize that post. So even though it's supposed to be number 1 on your feed, it's actually number 15 and you might never see it.
And by the way, Google and all those other places do the same thing with their algorithms.
Google does the same thing with things that they believe is true or false. So they'll say, this is factually incorrect according to our standards or Wikipedia or some other biased group. So we're not going to show it on the first page. We're going to show it on the third page. And actually, if you ever, so there's a big research that's been done on Google that shows that they have immense power over the election cycle.
Oh, yes.
Upwards of, 15 to 20 million votes could be altered by Google just tweaking their algorithm, which shows how things show up on your search results. So instead of the thing showing up number 1, it'll show up number 5. Now, the thing that Google does that's extremely creepy is not just number 1 to number 5. They go, we really want to hurt this person. So when you Google for something that's positive about Donald Trump, for example, you'll see it at like number 4, and it's sandwiched between a bunch of bad things. So you'll see bad, bad, good, bad, good, bad, bad. And the reason they throw a few good things in there is it makes it look more realistic. And so they know it'll swing more votes.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't believe John Matze just because he's saying it because he's the CEO of Parler, I can tell you, as someone who teaches computers to kids in high schools, I've had my business law students look up things like the Second Amendment. And when they look it up, all this negative stuff comes up about the Second Amendment. Whereas if I were to look it up at home, the search results would be different because I'm a different person. They're using my IP address to track me, and they're using their algorithms to give me what they think I want.
And so if you ever want to experiment with the algorithms on Twitter, go to somebody like Gavin, we brought up earlier. Go to one of his posts while you're not logged in and look at all the comments. And then log in and then look at all the comments.
Exactly.
You'll notice the order is changed and all the negative stuff then just is splattered all over the top. So this is the way they manipulate the content in order to make somebody look worse than they are. They manipulate the order in which you see things. And that's in order to hurt people they disagree with and help people they agree with. Now, what we do at Parler is we have everything chronological. So there's no fancy algorithm that's trying to mess with you. It's like if it was posted at that minute, it shows up at that minute on your feed.
I love it. That is absolutely fantastic.
That's the way it should be, right?
That is the way it should be. That's the way you assume it is, but it certainly is that.
Yeah.
So explain to me a little bit about your background. Before we started recording, we were talking a lot about the app. I made sure that I was signed up for the app, which I already was, but I signed up the show for the app as well. So tell me a little bit about your background. Like, how did you just wake up one day and say, you know what, I want to build an app and just build one?
I ran a consulting firm building apps for people. I was basically a for-hire CTO for a while. For a number of years, probably 4 years, I had this consulting firm. I did pretty well. I was pretty comfortable. I think it was a huge risk and a huge jump to do something like Parler for me, because I was pretty comfortable. So I went from that to what I call now mass chaos, which every day I have, it's like a 15-hour workday, and everything's another fire I got to put out. So, but I was a software engineer in trade, so I built iPhone apps for a living. I'd worked at other companies like General Atomics, working on the Predator drones.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
Contracts. I worked at Amazon Web Services as well, and I've worked at a large medical supply company.
Nice.
So I've got a history of working a lot of these corporations doing software engineering. So coming into a world with a lot of people has been extremely a huge change, because I went from dealing with computers to dealing with people, and that makes things unpredictable.
I like that, though. Listen, I really appreciate you sitting down with me for a few minutes. I hope that you're enjoying CPAC. This is Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business leader, Melanie Collette. This is part of our CPAC special. We have John Matze here. He's the CEO of Parler, and he sat down with a couple of minutes to tell us about the competitor to Twitter, and we appreciate his time very much.
Thank you very much. I'd love to have you guys sign up.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, that was the CEO, John Matze of Parler. You should sign up and check out his app. It's awesome. And we're going to go to commercial break really quick. And then when I come back, we'll have Mr. Eric Rigard. He is a candidate for California State Assembly in District 9. We'll be back in a few moments.
Don't just pass the IRS exams. Why not pass them all and get a solid tax education too? Visit irsexams.school and let the Tax Mama staff get you started today. All our live and self-study tax courses offer you the convenience to study online on your own time and have everything you need to succeed. Tax Mama teaches you tax law, practice, and representation from the ground up. That's irsexams.school. Why wait? Get enrolled today in our premium course or the self-study class. That's irsexams.school. It's way more than just a review course. It will improve your entire future.
Mike Bloomberg is the only Democratic presidential candidate that has a real plan for Black youth and education. It's called the Greenwood Initiative.
We'll make public college tuition free for all low-income students. We'll forgive college loans for students who were exploited by failed for-profit colleges.
Mike knows investing in our teachers is investing in our children.
We'll also recruit more Black and Latino teachers, as we did in New York City, because studies show they can make all the difference. And we'll also invest much more in heavily historically Black colleges and universities, because many of the HBCUs are struggling.
And the first step to achieving generational wealth is taken in the classroom.
We'll incentivize state and localities to create financial literacy classes.
Mike will get it done. Visit MikeForBlackAmerica.com to learn more.
They're concrete proposals that we can afford and that we can get done, and we will. I'm Mike Bloomberg, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Mike Bloomberg 2020.
And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. This is a special episode of Money Talk with Melanie. This is the CPAC highlight reel, if you will, highlight interviews from CPAC. But I also have a live guest today. His name is Eric Rigard. He is running for California State Assembly in District 9. I'm very happy to have him on the show today. And without further ado, Eric Rigard. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Well, listen, before we dig into some good, solid why Californians are crazy, please tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am, I like to tell everybody I am Christian, I'm conservative, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-family. And that's kind of me in a nutshell. I originally am from Los Angeles, California, Inglewood to be more exact, and went to UCLA, then moved up to the Bay Area, then moved up to Sacramento. And I've been up in this area, since 1998. And I got involved in my church and doing some public awareness. And then I started going out to Star Parker's Cure clergy event in DC, and became much more politically attuned and active, and had a couple ladies here on the Central Committee of the Sacramento County Republican Party approach me about running, and I thought about it, prayed about it, and then within 3 days I got all my names to get on the ballot, and here we are at the end of the campaign, but still slugging away.
That's how it always happens. Now, people might be wondering, why in the world is Melanie having someone who's running for office in California on Money Talk with Melanie? Is there any all country? Surely the national. That's the word. National implications. Are there national implications for that?
Exactly.
I'm really hard with words today. I'm having difficulty today, which is not
all right. It all comes out. I understand what you're talking about.
Yes, but of course, California is one of the largest, if not the largest state in the union. You'll probably be able to tell me that, whether or not it's actually the largest. And in a lot of ways, the way California goes, unfortunately, in some cases, the rest of the country goes. And there's a lot going on in California that Christians and conservatives alike, Christian conservatives, should be concerned about. Tell me a little bit about your district, District 9.
Yeah, the district that I'm in is takes South Sacramento, which is the tail end of the city, then into Elk Grove, which is one of the larger suburban areas in Sacramento, then into Galt, and down further into Lodi, which is agricultural. There are a lot of cherries, walnuts, and this is all kind of stuff grown down there. So yeah, it goes from urban to suburban to agri-land, and covers the gamut. The district is pretty racially diverse, and it is, 47% Democrat, 27% Republican, and 20% Independent. So, you ask, well, why are you running? You're crazy, man. But the guy who is the incumbent is, I personally think has a lot of flaws. And then the people that I've talked to seem to be pointing out even more of the flaws to me. So, there's some room there. And I tend to keep all of the issues that I talk to people about as general as possible. So I talk to them about this general thing, and they don't even know I'm a Republican until I get to the end, and I say I'm a Republican, and you hear kind of gasps in the room, and I say, wait a second. Is anything that I talk to you about, do you find it offensive? And they say no. I said, well, okay, then you got to judge me on that. You can't judge me on the R in front of my name. You got to judge me on what it is that I talk to you about and what I stand for. And they tend to shake their head, agree, and they say, oh, yeah, well, we're going to vote for you. So, that's all good. I'll see how they turn out tomorrow.
Right. We'll see. Now, what are some of the issues that you talk to people about, and where do you find some commonality or agreement across party lines?
Well, one of them is affordable senior housing. They're building senior housing in Elk Grove and South Sacramento, but to say it's affordable is a joke. Senior citizens they get a discount to go to the movies, to go to eat at Denny's, where whatever they want to do, they get a discount. But to rent a place, their rent is more than the average rent in the area for just a regular renter or homeowner or whatnot in any of the senior facilities that are there. There's one that was just built that it starts at $4,000 per month.
Wow.
For a 1-bedroom apartment. 1 bedroom. So
that's outrageous.
It's astronomical, and it's criminal because they're moving people who've grown up in those areas. They're moving them out of the area. They're moving them out. So that's one area. Affordable senior housing is a big one. The second one is schools and school choice and parental consent, informed consent. Within the district let's just take sex education. Junior high, middle school, and high school, you can go to the district, find out what the curriculum is, and you can opt your child out. Okay? But that takes a real informed parent who's on top of their game, who knows what to do, and goes down there. We're saying that for kids in K through 6th grade, that there should be an active opt-in provision where the school district has to tell the parent what it wants to cover, what it wants to teach, and then the parent has the option to opt their child in. And if they don't opt in, the child is automatically excluded from that.
Now, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And one of the reasons was, as we looked at the curriculum and we started digging into it, because this curriculum, believe it or not, is proposed by Planned Parenthood, LGBTQ community, people like that.
Hold on. Back up. Planned Parenthood is proposing curriculum? Planned Parenthood does that?
They are signed on to the curriculum that's moving forward in the school, yes.
Oh, I had no idea that they signed on, that they got that heavily involved in curriculum. And I'm those who listen to the show regularly know I'm a public school teacher. So I had no idea that they were quite that involved in the curriculum.
Yeah. And I just take one question, for instance. In the 4th grade, they'll ask like a little boy, they'll say, imagine you were a little girl. How would life be different? So they're doing going through gender exercises with them, and these are young kids. They got no business even dealing with that kind of stuff. So if parents knew about it, they of course would opt their kids out of that. They wouldn't let them opt in.
Sure. And I was going to say, as I said a little earlier, the way that California goes, the rest of the country goes a lot of times. And an example of that, I am a public school teacher in New Jersey. And sure enough, LGBTQ curriculum is coming to New Jersey next year. I don't know if parents are aware of that, but it is coming to New Jersey next year. There are only 2 states in the entire country right now that are doing that, but I'm sure that once New Jersey does it, there'll be more states that take on this curriculum as well. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, there definitely will be. And then the third thing I always talk to them about, and well, there's 4 things really, but the third thing I talk to them about is water and water storage. We claim to be in a perpetual state of drought in California, when last year was one of the wettest years on record, and they've got plenty of water. What they do not have, and what's been voted for here in the state, is water storage, or reservoirs, and things of that nature.
What do you mean they don't? Wait a minute. Back up. I gotta back you up again. What do you mean they don't have them? They don't have them?
There are some. They're getting ready to drain one major one, and there are 2 that are on tap to be built that have not been built since the bill was passed for the last 3 or 4 years. So they're not doing a good job of managing the water supply that they have. We flush more water out to the ocean than gets to go down through the valley to take care of the farmers and things like that. So it's just mismanagement, and it's not enough storage for the water that we do in fact have.
That is a sad state of affairs. And so how does that affect your constituents when there's not enough, when you have essentially a water shortage because you don't have enough storage?
Right. Well, there's a plot, I'd say, to start limiting water. People giving them, say, personally 55 gallons a day, sort of thing. So either they can wash their clothes or they can wash their body. One of the 2.
So wait a minute. Wouldn't another word for that be rationing?
Yes, it would be.
Okay.
So they're looking at that as a way to stave off future droughts. But the drought in the first place is because we don't do a good enough job managing the water that we have. So it's convoluted. Here in the state of California, when you have a bill, let's say there's a bond measure on the ballot right now. They call it Prop 13. It has nothing to do with the original Prop 13 that was founded here in California, which limited the taxes they were able to put on property owners. This one here, they say, is the Schools and Community Act. It costs $15 billion. The servicing of that debt per year is $747 million. In the state of California, that gets paid first before any of the other bills that are passed get paid. Okay? So ultimately, when it's paid off, it's going to cost $27 billion. It's going to cost twice as much. And here's the kicker. California has a surplus of $21 billion for schools right now. So that $15 billion, if they really needed it, they could take out of that surplus and put it into the schools and would never have to ask the taxpayer for anything. But yet they continue to come back and put their hand on your wallet so they can find a new way to get some more money out of you.
It's a miracle that anybody could afford to live there. I got to be honest with you. I don't. I know people who live there. My brother lives out there. I have friends who live out there, and now I know you.
Yeah, there you go.
But I'm stunned.
It is. It's the high. It's got to be the highest tax state around, and they're inventing new ways to try to get some of your money. I'll give you another example. The gas tax is a 15-cent per gallon gas tax on top of an existing gas tax that they had, which was supposed to fix the roads. We passed this one. The voters passed this one. That 15 cents extra per gallon was supposed to go to fix the roads. The governor, Gavin Newsom, said No, I'm not spending it on that. I'm going to spend it over here on this light rail train, which when they planned it was supposed to cost, let's say, I'll just pull a figure out of my head, was supposed to cost $5 billion. Well, today they may have a segment of about a mile's worth of track built, and it's already cost 3 times as much as what they said up front.
And where's this train supposed to go? I've heard about this train. This train has become infamous, I would say, at this point. In terms of being an example of government waste. So where is it supposed to go?
It was supposed to go from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Okay. Then they shortened it down and say, okay, well, it'll go from Bakersfield to like Stockton. Right now, it's supposed to go from Bakersfield to Merced, which is further south. So it gets shorter and shorter and shorter all the time, and they still haven't built out the track. They haven't even gotten all the land for the track. You know, it's a waste. It is a total waste of money, and it was one that the previous governor was 100% sold on, and it was going to be kind of a legacy item for him, and it shouldn't even happen anymore. It shouldn't happen.
So
it's just wasteful. It's wasteful spending.
So, in your opinion, what should happen with the train now? I mean, at this point, you've invested a certain amount of money in this train, and I would assume that every year they probably ask for a little bit more money in order to complete the project. And what's your position on that, as far as whether or not any more money should be spent on it? Should they just let it go? I mean, to me, that's a difficult one.
I think that money would be better spent on beefing up the airports and things like that here in the state. You can fly in an hour and be anywhere in the state of California. Okay, go to the airport, get on a plane, boom, in an hour you're there. So you can commute from Los Angeles to San Francisco, or San Diego to San Francisco. You know, you can commute back and forth, but I just think they should beef that up as opposed to trying to build this train, which is kind of now a train to nowhere.
And it sounds like a train to nowhere, and they spent a whole lot of money on it. That's ridiculous.
Oh, exactly. Yep.
That's ridiculous. And so does there seem to be a common, even among Democrats, a common thought that train is now a waste of money and there's no point? Like, is there anybody who's actually pro finishing that train?
The politicians are still pro finishing it, but the people, as you speak to the people, they are like, yeah, just blow that thing up and start from scratch or whatever. But it's not very popular when you talk to people one-on-one. When you talk to politicians who are there, a lot of them are still all for it. But, you know, because I think they can get money for their districts and stuff like that. And that's all this thing is about. They're in office to be in office, to get money so they can throw at their district. And when they come back through, they say, oh, yeah, well, I gave you $2 billion for the district and blah, blah, blah. And but where did it go? What did it do? Nothing. So people are getting tired of it.
For real. And I feel like what you're suggesting is that there's a little pay for play that goes on in California, much like in other states.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. The average salary of an assembly person here in California is $104,000.
Get out of here!
$104,000. But most of these guys are making well above that because the PG&Es and everybody else of the world, lobbyists and stuff, are throwing money at them for their pet projects. So that's why I say a lot of people are there. They get in office and they continue to run to stay in office, as opposed to being public servants serving the people within their district. They're just kick back, making some money for themselves, and they'll throw out some money. They'll distribute money within the district to make it appear as though they're doing something for the district.
But they're seriously not. And of course, you said that you are pro-life. And so
right.
And how is the state of California in general on the life issue?
Very split. All the Republicans I talked to are definitely pro-life. They're definitely with me on that. As a matter of fact, I went in one area in Lodi, talked to the lady, and I just told them, look, I'm Christian, I'm conservative, I'm pro-life. And one lady said, that's all I need to know. She stood up. So they're very much pro-life. And the other side, there's a lot of questions. And what I do is I just back it down to a common denominator. I say, okay, what about a third trimester abortion? The baby's formed. It's done. It's a done deal, you know. And what happens when you abort that baby? You're breaking its arms and stuff off, and you're killing it in the womb, you know. And they say, well, I don't really see that. I don't really want that. I said, well, you know, if you keep backing it up, you're going to have a hard time justifying abortion, period.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people,
we can start there.
A lot of people are very misinformed about what abortion is. They don't know what it is. They know what it is intellectually, like they know the sanitized version of what it is.
Yeah.
But they don't know the details behind what it is. And I submit to you that if most people knew what the details behind an abortion was, I'd always challenge people who are upset with me for being pro-life. I challenge them. Go look it up. Especially, I like to say this, especially to men who are pro-choice. I'm like, if you're man enough, go look up the video. You go look up the videos and see what an abortion actually is. And if you're still pro-life, pro-choice after that, I'll leave you alone. But I challenge you. I challenge any man to be able to endure looking at something like that. Any person who's human, who has a heart. It's inhumane, and as I often say about abortion, serial killers get more humane treatment than the unborn child.
Yeah, true.
Who gets aborted. It's, you know, it's crazy that if they were to do surgery on a child at that age, they would give the child anesthesia. But if you're going to kill it, then that doesn't make a difference. You can just do what you want. Like that is stunning to me. We're up against the commercial break. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm here live with Eric Rigard, who is a California State Assembly District 9 candidate. We're going to talk not a whole lot about who he's running against, because that's their job to get their name out. But I want to know what the competition. Yeah, that's a rule of thumb in campaigning. Never tell anybody your opponent's name. Oh yeah, who are you running against? Oh no, don't tell them. Never tell them who you're running against. Let them tell them. If they don't know, then that's on them. I will be right back in a few minutes.
Okay.
Mike Bloomberg is the only Democratic presidential candidate who understands that wealth creation and the current racial wealth gap is linked to past racism, and has a plan to address the impact on Black America.
The crimes against Black Americans still echo across the centuries, and no single law can wipe out that slate clean. The time has come, I think, to fully commit ourselves to acknowledging our history and righting our country's wrongs, and that's exactly what I will do as president.
It's called the Greenwood Initiative.
1, we will help 1 million more Black families buy a house. 2, we will double the number of Black-owned businesses. 3, we will help Black families triple their wealth over the next 10 years to an all-time high.
Mike will get it done. Visit MikeForBlackAmerica.com to learn more.
There are concrete proposals that we can afford and that we can get done, and we will. I'm Mike Bloomberg, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Mike Bloomberg 2020.
Making a living can be tough these days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want job security, you can become a tax specialist with an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama. Operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school. And if you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I am broadcasting live from CPAC. And I have with me right now Tim Viens. He drives for race fans for Trump. Race fans for Trump. And I'm also here with Hank Foley, who is president of Race Fans for Trump. And if you're like me and had no idea that there was such thing as a Race Fans for Trump, welcome to my world. I had no idea that this even existed. And I'm so excited to speak to both of you guys today. You want to introduce yourself? You're Tim Viens?
Yeah, my name's Tim Viens. I'm the driver of the 03 in the Gander Mountain Truck Series and also the co-driver in the 47 in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And yes, we're Race Fans for Trump 2020, and my partner Hank Foley, we started it together.
That is excellent. And about how many members are members of Race Fans for Trump?
Well, we just got started about a week before Daytona, putting it out there, but it's several thousands, and my fan base is around 70,000. So we're getting there. We're slowly climbing.
Now, I explained to Mr. Foley and Mr. Viens that I know absolutely nothing about race car driving, and so I have a lot of questions. But by the way, Hank Foley, who's president of Race Fans for Trump, is also a pilot. So I have a lot of questions about these daredevil type men, these real alpha males that I'm sitting here with. I'm super excited right now. So, and I'm really appreciate you guys sitting down and talk to me. So tell me about a little bit about your background, about how you started racing cars, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't grow up like a lot of these kids who are in go-karts and racing their whole lives. I started later in life. I started a company called RaceDaySponsor.com where we brought in sponsorship to the sport. So that was how I got around the sport of NASCAR. I started taking up driving as a hobby on the weekends at a local track. I just fell in love with racing, and I started doing it every single weekend and just progressed up. And happened to, be fortunate enough to make it to this level and be able to do what I love.
Now, when you say you started driving as a hobby, how fast were you driving as a hobby?
Well, like New Smyrna Speedway, you're topping out at probably around 90 miles an hour, but it's only a half-mile track, so it's a real short track. As you get on these bigger tracks is when you have the opportunity to get a lot faster.
And what's a lot faster?
Well, we drive over 195 at Daytona.
That is crazy. And does it take a lot of physical strength to drive that fast? I would think that it does. That you have to be in reasonably good shape, right?
It does. The races can go over 2 hours, so it's very enduring. You're in the corners, you're pulling the small G's, but it is physically demanding. When I last raced Daytona, I weighed myself before I got in the car, and after I got out after the race, about 2.5 hours later, I was 10 pounds lighter. So.
Now, are you 10 pounds lighter from sweating? Like, is that
correct?
Whoa, that's crazy.
The cars are typically around 120 degrees. It's like being in a sauna the entire time.
And what do you feel how fast you're going? Like, do you like if when you're riding a bike really fast down a hill? That's as fast as I want to go, by the way. And do you feel that when you're driving a race car like that?
I mean, you do, especially on the super speedways. You're basically running 190 plus miles an hour, bumper to bumper, touching the person in front of you.
Oh, I forgot about the other cars.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Things happen really quick, and you got to have quick reflexes. But you do notice it, especially in those environments.
Now, do race car drivers have to drive defensively, like they tell us, run-of-the-mill regular drivers, or are you driving offensively, trying to like bump people off and stuff like that? Like, how does that work?
In racing, we try to avoid the wrecks because the sport is expensive. The race cars are expensive, so we try not to tear them up because we want to be able to use them week after week. On the street, I'm a pretty mellow guy. I drive a big truck, so I'm pretty calm and collective. So
that's right. You drive trucks and cars.
Correct.
That's incredible. And you're wearing. Explain to me what you're wearing. He's wearing a. If I could describe this, your
fire
classic.
suit.
Thank you. It's called a fire suit. Thank you for telling me what the proper name was because I had no idea. But he's wearing this amazing Trump Pence fire suit. It is just incredible. And I'm going to make sure that I post pictures on Money Talk with Melanie on the Facebook page and on the website so that you guys can check it out because it's pretty cool. What made you guys start Trump Race Car Fans for Trump with Mr. Foley?
Well, we were sitting at a local bar called South Turn, watching football and eating wings. We were talking about the upcoming racing season. I said, well, it runs parallel with the election system. Why don't we do a Trump-Pence 2020 car? Light bulb goes off, and we had the idea. We started racefansfortrump2020.com. You can visit that on the web. We also have a donation button because it's very expensive. So we would love to get $20, $30, whatever the people can afford. It's $1,200 for a tire change, and we do 4 tire changes in a race.
And you have a car fully like backed out with all the Trump Pence, I guess artwork. It's probably not called artwork. There's probably some like really cool race car name for it.
Yeah. It's the number 47 car in the Xfinity series.
It's the number 47.
47, yeah. We started, there's 36 cars in the race, and we finished 15th, which is right in the middle of the pack. And why we're doing this, it costs $4.5 million for a 30-second commercial in the Daytona 500. For that price, we can put a truck, a car, and a few selected cup cars on the track for the entire season. So you get over 200 hours of Trump-Pence commercial. And while we're doing that, we're doing voter registration outside the track.
Excellent.
So we've teamed up with Bikers for Trump also. They helped us out quite a bit.
Yes, I talked to Chris Cox last CPAC.
And Dale Herndon has now taken over Bikers for Trump. But they've been a great help with us. They're helping us with the voter registration. Every track we go to, we have voter registration going on outside the track. And this is about getting President Trump reelected. It's a great idea. We love doing it. But it's about getting voters and getting President Trump reelected and getting a 2-hour commercial out there.
And why are you so passionate about getting President Trump reelected? I'd like to hear from both of you on that.
So people ask me, why would we put our own money up for the first race? And people ask me, why would you do that? I said, well, we live in the greatest country on earth. I see what President Trump has done for this country. I look at my 401k. I look at the way the economy is going. I look at my friends that were looking for jobs under the last administration, and now they're not. They're employed and they're making great money. People are buying cars. They're buying homes. Interest rates are low. The economy is hitting on all cylinders. This is, at minimum, our way of saying thank you to President Trump. This is our thank you card. We want President Trump to know thank you. The average people of the world can do things. They can do great things in this country. We were told it was impossible to do. But you know what we said in this country? Anything you can do. And
absolutely,
we did.
I believe that. I believe that, especially as a brown girl. I think we live in an amazing country. I don't want to say even as a brown girl because that's a mantra of the left. But I think especially for brown people in this day and age. Last night, President Trump held an event at the White House for African American History Month, and he has just done amazing things for the entire country. And I think as a Republican, quite frankly, he has paid more attention to African Americans than any other Republican, especially at the presidential level. So I'm thrilled. Tell Mr. Viens, tell us why you were so passionate about President Trump.
For me, it's the same thing. It's patriotism and giving back. I'm an entrepreneur myself, have several businesses, and they're firing on all cylinders, and we're hiring people. So for me and Hank, it was the same reason. We wanted to give back and show that if you work hard and you have the good Lord on your side, anything's possible in this country, and that's what makes America great. So we're trying to focus our efforts to help the president and put race cars, this Trump-Pence 2020 cars, especially in the battleground states. Next weekend, we have the number 51, driven by my teammate BJ McLeod, and he'll be driving that Phoenix, Arizona race, which is a big battleground state. So we're just trying to do what we can and keep it going. So we really hope that people will support us and follow us on social media at our Race Fans for Trump 2020.
Okay, and tell us all what all the social medias and where they can follow you.
All the social medias are at Race Fans for Trump 2020, and the same as our .com. You can go on there. We'll be posting all of our photos from the races and videos and podcasts and different things like that. A lot of stuff from the track. And you can also make a donation. Everything helps and adds up, and we keep this program going for the entire season.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for sitting down with me. I appreciate it. It's been a super pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I am here giving you some highlights from CPAC. And I also have a live guest this hour, Mr. Eric Rigard, and he is back with us. He is running for California State Assembly District 9. And like I said, I'm also doing some highlights from CPAC. Before we left and did that last highlight in that last commercial break, well, I was talking to you about who you were running against, and I don't want to know specifically like about those people, but I just want to know what your field looks like.
Yeah, I have 3 Democrats that I'm running against. One is the incumbent, and he positions himself to be a moderate Democrat. However, everything that he has voted for has been the antithesis of that. This gentleman is the co-writer of the California State Sanctuary Law. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yes. He's admittedly kind of in the pocket of Planned Parenthood and works with them hand and foot quite a bit, hand in hand, and. He has. There's several things that you might find somewhat confusing, in that he's an ex-law enforcement agent, and a lot of the bills that he's written have like handcuffed the police to a certain extent. He's written some decent laws as well, but most of them have really been pro-immigrant, anti-American, and just. Downright on the other side of where we stand as far as life and things like that are concerned.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to ask you, how far has California gone as far as being more friendly to illegal immigrants than they are to actual United States citizens and legal immigrants? Like, how far left are they?
Within the Democrat Party, you have a lot of support there. You have a lot of people who have come in and who just espouse those views. This guy, wants to give free housing, free, education. Everybody gets that free housing, welfare, health care to illegal immigrants. And somebody on the street, which takes us to another issue within California, that's homelessness. People that are on the street, that are homeless vets and just homeless in general, they can't get the same help that you can get if you come in here illegally. They will see to it that you get those things. People who are here, who are citizens, who are from here, they'll have one hell of a time getting those same things done for them. Homelessness is a scourge, and most of the Democrats that I've seen, now there's some that will talk a good game, but most of them that I've seen have been involved in housing. And I think that they think that if they just get housing is very visible and people can see it. So they think that you're doing something. But the majority of these people, housing helps some who just need a hand up. But those who are mentally ill, they need mental health treatment. They need mental health facilities, which the state can provide, and they need to be treated. I give an example of my uncle who went to Camarillo State Hospital in Southern California. While he was on his meds talking to his doctors, he was a great guy. The second that stopped, you would find him on a bus stop somewhere in Los Angeles, just hanging out. And there are a lot of people that are like that who simply need treatment. And we have so sanitized the thing that the police and the DA, they can't commit anybody, they can't hold anybody for any length of time, they can't force them into any sort of treatment. It's appalling. It's appalling.
And what seems to be really insidious about their unwillingness to commit people and their unwillingness to really help these people in any real way is that they're saying that they're helping them by not quote unquote, infringing on them.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it.
they're infringing on them from living a decent life, and they're infringing upon everybody else around them, who their encampments are beginning to encroach into neighborhoods, under freeways. If you came out here and you drove through Oakland, you get off of a freeway, you're going to see an encampment. You go to San Francisco, you're going to see one. You go in LA, you go downtown, you're going to see a ton of them, you know, and they're people that are just out there hurting. There's some people that are working. There's some people that are actually working, and they can afford rent each month, but they just can't come up with the first and the last. They just need somebody to reach and give them a hand up, you know, to help them get into a place. Okay? The ones who are mentally ill, they need some mental health treatment. And those who are IV drug users or drug users, are, you know, they need to be given, I believe, one of two choices. Either you go to a rehab center or you get to spend a little time in jail. You know, but we have no incentive. There's nothing on the back end. There's no going to jail. Doesn't exist. So when you offer them treatment, they're just like, nah, I'll just hang out here. Yeah.
Wow. That is incredible. I don't understand. That's something that I don't understand that goes on in California. And it goes on in other states too, but it seems that because California is so warm and because of their lax laws, that a lot of people come out to California when they find themselves in that situation. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
They're their biggest day. You know, they've noticed in Los Angeles, Drew Pinsky has talked about this. Other people have talked about it, you know, about the resurgence of some diseases that have long since been gone.
Right,
you know,
typhus.
They're coming back now.
Sure, exactly,
you know?
because of those areas.
Typhus, yeah, all sorts of stuff.
That's ridiculous. Well, listen, we're going to wish you the best of luck and Godspeed in tomorrow's primary. The primary's tomorrow, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that is excellent. Where can we follow you on Facebook, Twitter, anything like that?
If you can go to my webpage, which is Rigard, RIGARD, FOR, assembly.com. You can go there. You can go on Facebook at Rigard for Assembly, and you can go on Twitter at Elect Eric Rigard.
Oh, excellent. I'm going to post the link to your website in the Facey chat if you're listening to this on Facebook, if you're watching this on Facebook or listening to this on Facebook, regardforassembly.com. And thank you so much for being on the show. I know today, the day before election, is a super busy day, so we appreciate you taking the time.
No, I thank you. Thank you so very much, and thank your audience.
Thank you. Best of luck tomorrow.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. That was Eric Rigard, who's running for California State Assembly in District 9. And if you want to elect a Republican tomorrow out in California, District 9, go out and vote for Eric Rigard, if you will. It's Eric, ERIC, Rigard, RIGARD. Make sure you get out and vote tomorrow. I have a couple of more clips that I want to play for you from CPAC2020. I had a couple of really interesting interviews. The next one that I wanted to play for you is a gentleman named Tom Norton. He is running against Justin Amash out in, let me make sure that I get my notes right here before I say where. I believe it's in Michigan. Yes, in Michigan District 3. He is running against Justin Amash, who is an independent, really turned Democrat. But without further ado, Tom Norton. This is Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and you are listening to our CPAC special. And right now I have with me Tom Norton, who is a candidate for Congress running against Justin Amash in the 3rd District in Michigan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for being here and taking the time to sit with me. I know that CPAC can be really busy, and there's a lot of good sessions to view and to watch. So I really appreciate you sitting down with me right now. So the first thing I want to ask you is to tell the audience a little bit about your background, if you would.
Yeah, my name's Tom Norton. I'm running for Congress against Justin Amash. I'm an Afghanistan war veteran. I run a suicide prevention program in West Michigan. Well, I don't run it anymore with me running for Congress, but I'm still on the board. We do suicide prevention. I've also been a village president in the district, and I've been an American Legion post commander and really involved in the entire community through there. And I was raised actually on a farm, so extremely blue-collar background.
Nice, excellent. And what made you want to run for Congress?
Well, Justin Amash's staff would look at veterans that I was helping and tell them, "You're not our problem, go to the VA."
Really?
Yes. And if you're going to do that to veterans, you can imagine what you're actually doing to regular constituents. Then I spent years actually looking for somebody to primary challenge him. Got tired of it because everybody said it was too high of a mountain to climb and you can't take on an incumbent congressman. We went ahead and filed anyway because we couldn't find anybody else. I was like, well, I at least have the resume to do it, so let's do this. So we ended up hopping into the race, and then he tweeted to impeach President Trump. And then the establishment has thrown in all their nice little rhinos from all over the planet. They even moved some back from different states. And what's funny is we were supposed to be pushed out by now, but instead, all the local news media sits there and says we're in the big 3 out of the top 6, and we're still sitting there. It's driving them nuts because we got all the grassroots behind us, and it's just a hardcore grassroots grind campaign.
That's amazing. And to be clear, so the audience is aware, Justin Amash is now running as an independent.
Yes.
He's not running as a Republican anymore.
Well, he was always a libertarian.
Yeah, exactly.
Open borders. He's not very strong when it came to life. He really didn't. He's never passed anything. He did rename a post office. That's his accomplishment. 10 years in Congress. So, and then free trade. He has business dealings in China, and that was probably his biggest fight with Trump. I mean, that's why Orange Man is bad.
Always follow the money.
Yeah.
Always follow the money. And how is he on the Second Amendment?
Second Amendment, he's actually quite good on the Second Amendment. There's some issues that I would agree with Justin Amash on, but constituent relations, horrible. Borders, horrible. Foreign policy, non-existent.
Wow.
Trade deals, he likes them with China. Oh, he believes in being completely isolationist, like dismantling of the military and taking it back to the 1780s.
Wow. And on President Trump, we know that he does not support our president.
No, he does not.
And that is a big problem. But what about your support for President Trump? How do you feel about the job that President Trump is doing?
I think he's doing a great job. I actually joke with people I was a latecomer to Trump. I endorsed Trump in September of 2016, prior to working with the Cruz campaign. But what happened was I'm sitting here as I got closer and closer to the election. I'm like, there's no way in God's green earth we can let Hillary Clinton be president. And
exactly.
I ended up driving on his convoy, actually, and being one of the drivers for his staff when they came into the area because I was on the Republican Executive Committee at the time and everything else. And then in October, I sent out a mass email with about 30,000 emails that we had from a veteran's perspective of why to vote for Trump. Because if Hillary Clinton was a private in the Army, she would have been in prison for half the stuff she did.
Well, you are right about that. You're absolutely right about that. How is your race looking right now? How is it set up? How many people are running? How does it look?
We have 6 in the primary. Our primary is in August. I tell people go to Norton4Congress.com. If they donate $10 or $20 a month, that's how we're going to actually win. Most of our donations are about $15 and some change is our average donation. We're finally to the point where we can run a full bare bones operation off recurring donors.
Excellent.
And then I'd make enough that I can put it in slowly too. So we actually have a full congressional campaign now, which kind of scares the heck out of them. And because every dollar that we spend, we get 10 times the engagement of what one of the millionaires that's running it gets. They've spent $500,000, and it's driving them nuts. So we get more engagements. We have bigger cottage meetings. We have bigger town halls. It's because they don't own their words. They don't understand how to talk straight to people, and that's, I think, what really makes it work for us.
Oh, that's excellent. That's good to hear. So what brings you to CPAC?
Well, my campaign told me to come. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I came to CPAC because it's really good for networking. I spoke last night at the National File. That was a big party they had, about 200-300 people in there, so that was entertaining.
Lots of big parties during CPAC.
Yeah.
It's a little CPAC secret, kind of.
Yeah, so getting to be the designated driver for a bunch of other people running for office from around the country, that was entertaining.
Right. That's funny.
I was just there. I always tell people, I was like, everybody makes mistakes.
So when I go out with people, I have 2 drinks. That's it, and then that way I can still drive.
Exactly.
It's
That's
something
what you have to
really
do.
really mild tone because with suicide prevention, sometimes you drink too heavy with veterans. So, and that's why I tell people from just personal experience: just take 2, just drive, and then you're good. And nobody gets in trouble. But it's a great party that they actually have, and the network with everybody is pretty good. That and coming down Media Row and meeting great people like you.
Oh, that was very nice. That was good. Media Row is super fun, right? At CPAC.
That's different. Actually, this morning I walked in before quite a few people. I just walked up, and a couple of the people had seen me interview yesterday, and I'm very, very blunt, as you can tell. And so they were like, "You want to interview now?" I was like, "Sure."
Oh yeah.
We were here the day before, and they're like, "Well, you're running against Amash. That's old news." And then I started doing interviewing, and they're like, "Okay, he talks completely different."
And that's a wonderful thing. We need to hear that. So how are you on different I'm gonna just kind of rapid fire you on different areas. So we know how you are on the Second Amendment. How are you on pro-life?
Actually, we're the only campaign out with a pro-life video that sits there and says life begins at conception. The only exception I could ever make is true endangerment to a mother's life. And the reason behind that, you get things like tubular pregnancies that modern science doesn't have the ability to fix yet. But I think that in the next 10 years, if the right technology is going, that abortion is going to be rendered completely obsolete with modern technology, is what I think can actually happen on it. And the other part about it, when you sit there and you look at how with different sciences, when religion steps in to it, it seems to work better. Like, I go in for shots on occasion because of some injuries from the Army. And had one on my hip. My hip doesn't pop anymore. It's a couple $100 a shot. Insurance doesn't cover it. But my nerves reconnected to the joints in my hip. And that is from stem cells from born children, from the umbilical cord. That science has only had about $50 million in funding in it and has rendered the most medical advances from born children.
Wow.
If that doesn't give you a clear message of where God actually gets involved on born children versus aborted children, because aborted stem cells haven't rendered any real scientific advancements with billions and billions of dollars shoved into it. Versus born children, $50 million, born children, umbilical cords, when these kids are alive and growing, have actually made medical advancements where people are healed.
That's amazing. I'll tell you, as big a pro-lifer as I am, I had never heard that science before.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that work in the medical industry, so it's actually really interesting to hear them out and everything else and start to see that. So on life, you look at science on it, well, you can see how God works very differently when you get into the abortion argument. And if you're going to argue from a scientific standpoint, if we're going to defend a turtle egg, we're not going to defend an aborted baby.
It's just so asinine when you say it like that. And like, where are your priorities?
Yeah, I break it down to the ridiculous. That's how I argue Democrats in my area. Is I tell them we're defending unborn turtle eggs, and you'll say that's life, but an unborn child isn't life. Are you nuts?
I like the "are you nuts?" but you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right about that. Now, where are you on President Trump's foreign policy? How do you feel about that?
His foreign policy, what he's practicing is something called regionalized deployability.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in line with regionalized deployability for a long time. I might not agree with every decision all the time because of the military background, being an ops NCO, but so far everything he's done has been right down the line. He's used a scalpel when we need a scalpel. He's used a hammer when we need a hammer. So he's actually using all the tools in his toolbox. And it's a huge change between George Bush and Barack Obama. Barack Obama would use a scalpel when you needed a sledgehammer, and George Bush would use a sledgehammer when you needed a scalpel.
Indeed. And most recently in the news, of course, we have the coronavirus that's going around, and it seems like it seems to be expanding. Like every morning we wake up, and it seems like there's more and more people who are infected with this virus. How do you think that the administration is handling that?
Well, this is one of the only things where I'm going to sound a little weird, but that virus came out of a city that is where they make militarized biological weapons for the Chinese military.
Well, there's nothing to see there, though. Don't worry about it. I'm sure.
You have to ask yourself some really basic questions. I don't subscribe that it came from these colleges or anything like that. I think the Chinese military weaponized something and it got out by accident. I don't think it was intentional, but I've never seen world leaders get so on top of something so quickly.
That is true.
I've never seen it. When we had the flu outbreaks, do you ever see the United States, Britain, Germany, Russia, everybody saying, let's control this now?
Well, thousands of people die of the flu every year.
Yeah.
I think last year it was 14,000 people died of the flu last year.
Yeah, the coronavirus, though, is killing at almost a rate, I think, of around 9% was the last number I heard. But you sit there, you don't see world leaders when you first see an outbreak of a virus step in that hard.
So, in other words, I think you're saying somebody knows something.
Somebody knew something is what it looks like. And I can tell you I used to do biological warfare training as an operations NCO, and everything that is going on is specifically what you would do if there was that type of accident.
If there was a bio outbreak.
Just by like that. And you sit here, and when they're freaking out about one in South Carolina, or one in New York, or a few in California, when they're flipping to this degree, I think the coronavirus was a weaponized virus, is what it looks like. And I think the president and everybody else is handling it extremely well, because it has really caused a worldwide almost organization to address one item. So hopefully what it will do in the future is get them to actually communicate, hey, we have this, how about we start dismantling these?
I think that's a great idea. I think you're on to something. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business leader, Melanie. I'm here with Tom Norton. He is running for Congress against Justin AmashLive in the 3rd District in Michigan. I'm very happy to have him on the show today. Thank you so much for sitting with me.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. And that was Tom Norton, who is running for Congress. I don't know whether or not you guys caught what he said about the coronavirus. He said that he used to work in the field, and that the protocols that they are using are the exact same protocols that they use when a weaponized virus gets out. That is crazy. The next person that we have up, I have 2 more interviews that I want you guys to hear. The next one is Gavin Clarkson. And Gavin Clarkson is another candidate who is running for, let me make sure I have this right. He is a lawyer and law professor. He's also a former Trump administration deputy assistant secretary. And he is running for Senate in New Mexico. And it's a very interesting interview, and hear what he has to say coming up next. Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm live from CPAC, and I am here now with Gavin Clarkson, who's running for Senate in New Mexico. Welcome to Money Talk with Melanie.
Thank you, Melanie. Glad to be on.
Thank you so much for being here. One of the things I wanted to ask, first of all, tell the audience a little bit about your background, if you would, because there's a lot there.
Well, yes. So I'm an endangered species. I'm a Christian conservative, pro-life, pro-gun, pro-Israel Republican finance professor. And I also teach entrepreneurship and business law and federal Indian law. But I was President Trump's deputy assistant secretary for policy and economic development. And unlike Elizabeth Warren, I actually am an enrolled tribal member. And I'm running for the open United States Senate seat in New Mexico. The Democrat is retiring. The reason I'm running is real simple. 95% of my students cannot get a job in New Mexico when they graduate. They have to leave the state. And also, as the only veteran in the race, a second-generation Navy veteran, I'm also concerned about the economic opportunities for our returning combat veterans, because it's really hard to transition back to civilian life if there's no jobs.
How about that? Talk to us a little bit about that. Thank you for your service, first of all.
Well, thank you.
But
mine was unfortunately a little short, because my career was ended by a head-on collision with a drunk driving illegal alien.
Oh wow. I'm glad you're okay.
Well, yeah, no, I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm alive. I know several angel families, unfortunately, whose children were killed by illegal aliens, and actually my best friend, also a Navy shipmate, he's a Navy SEAL. Younger brother was an Army Ranger. They're actually the children of legal Mexican immigrants. The younger brother came home on leave and got killed by an illegal alien who had been deported 4 times.
Oh my goodness, that is so. That's I don't understand what our government is doing.
Well, again, it is Congress. It is Congress's fault, and it was the Obama administration's fault. And unfortunately, we have too many holdovers and sort of and deep embedded swamp creatures from the Obama administration that are refusing to enforce our borders and refusing to keep us safe. Now, the front lines, the brave men and women of Customs and Border Protection and DHS Field Ops, they're doing a great job. They're doing the best they can with the tools they've been given. They just need more tools. And the wall is part of a tool that allows them to do their job. And I live on the border. I've actually had illegal aliens surrender to me because Border Patrol was busy with another group of illegal aliens.
Wow, that's amazing. So, let me ask you, why are you running for Senate? I was going to say Congress.
Well, like I said, it's because 95% of my students can't get a job, and because I'm concerned about the economic opportunities for returning veterans. But the other thing that we need to be able to get control of our southern border. So the jobs are number one, border security, and it's even more important now because the first coronavirus was detected in Latin America, in Brazil.
Yeah.
And the illegal aliens that surrendered to me at the Mexican border were Brazilian.
Oh, wow.
So we actually, there's about 50 or 60 different countries that are sending illegal aliens through New Mexico. Because we've got 179 and a little bit more, 179 miles of border. Less than 40 miles are covered by primary border. There's another 80 or so miles that are what they call vehicle barrier that even a fat guy like me can hop over. And the rest is nothing more than a barbed wire fence. It stops nobody. Now, last year, just in my hometown, between April and June, we had 17,000 illegal aliens fraudulently claiming asylum dropped on our doorstep, just in my town. We were overrun last year. Now, hopefully this year, the changes the president has implemented through executive action, because Congress won't do anything, or the House of Representatives with Nancy Pelosi and my likely Democrat opponent, Ben Ray Lujan, as the assistant speaker, they are insisting on an open borders agenda, and they are trying to stop everything the president is trying to do to keep our country safe.
What do you think is behind the open borders agenda? I think there are a few theories out there. What do you think is behind that?
Basically, it's the open borders agenda. If you look at what the Democrats want, they only want their votes. So they want to allow. They're already allowing in California illegal aliens to vote. And the interesting thing is, most of the people that are coming here, the voting is not the big thing. What they want is the economic opportunity.
Sure.
So I totally oppose amnesty. I would be open to the notion of a path to residency for those who have been otherwise law-abiding, but you can't be a citizen without paying a fine, admitting your crime, and going to the back of a line. Most of the folks that I have met that with questionable immigration status would take that issue, take that deal,
right,
because it's more that they're. I don't blame somebody for wanting to try and feed their families. I think that's something that parents worldwide want to provide a life to their children.
Sure.
The problem is there are laws that these people have broken. They haven't followed them. My wife is a legal immigrant who followed the rules to become a U.S. citizen. It took her 14 years to do so. Why should I let somebody cheat and go to the head of the line? And I don't care if you cheated or your parents cheated by dragging you across when you were a minor. If you're in my class, you take an exam and you cheat, I don't care whether it was your parents who handed you the answers or you dug them up yourself, you still fail. So a path to residency isn't something the Democrats are willing to support, because all they want is the votes. They actually don't care about the economic prospects for these individuals. And so basically it's because they cannot win elections. And so they have to re-engineer the underlying voting demographics, and that involves importing a bunch of people that they instantly put on public dependency, which is why the Supreme Court victory that allowed the president to implement the public charge rule is so important. And it's one of those things where people understand how much this president has been able to fundamentally change the judiciary with conservative judges, including my high school debate partner. The president elevated the Second Circuit. And because I do have a law degree, it's highly likely I will be on the Senate Judiciary Committee when I'm elected. And I will be a strong voice for the next set of Supreme Court appointees. Because if you think the Kavanaugh fight was nasty, wait until the president nominates Amy Coney Barrett to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
I like it.
No, that will make the Amy Coney Barrett is probably one of the smartest members of the federal judiciary anywhere in North America. And one of my friends was a year ahead of her in law school, and they were already talking about her as she was going to be the first Notre Dame Supreme Court clerk. And likely to end up in the Supreme Court. And I cannot wait to have Amy Coney Barrett on the bench, because she is somebody who is an articulate voice to the defense of the unborn. And that's another issue that's a big issue in New Mexico. New Mexico is the late-term abortion capital of the Western Hemisphere.
Oh, wow.
And although most people focus on my job creation activities, my economic development activities, when I was a doctoral student at Harvard Business School, I also ran a Christian crisis pregnancy center. And so I've been hosting pro-life statewide collegiate conferences since the 1980s. And so, so the life issue is critically important. So we have border, we have jobs, we have pro-life, and then the other one is the Second Amendment. Our Second Amendment in New Mexico is totally under assault. We've just passed the worst red flag law in the country. We actually, as a payoff to the trial lawyers, the trial lawyer sponsors of the bill also put in a provision that a sheriff chooses to enforce the Constitution and doesn't enforce an unconstitutional red flag law, they can be sued.
That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous law.
It absolutely is. It's unconstitutional on its face. It shreds the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and the 14th Amendment all together.
Is anyone actively opposing that law?
Well, it just got signed 3 days ago.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yes. Almost all the sheriffs in New Mexico have said they cannot enforce that law because it's unconstitutional. 30 of our 33 counties have passed Second Amendment sanctuary county provisions. So we're doing our best to, and the Supreme Court has said an unconstitutional law is no law at all.
You're right about that. I want to go back to something that you said earlier about immigration. You said it took your wife 14 years to do it legally.
Right.
Do you have any issue with the fact that it takes so long, or do you think that?
No. It's a fundamentally broken system. And there's a lot of the federal bureaucracy that just doesn't work for people. And I know it, having been in the Trump administration. The swamp is deep, the alligators bite, fake news is really annoying, and the taxpayers are getting ripped off every single day. And one of the very first bills that my opponent voted for in 2008, when he was a freshman congressman, basically pays 1/3 of the federal government to not show up to work every day.
Oh, I've heard that.
Called mandatory telework. And I actually, nerdy, pointy-headed, college professor that I am, was another thing I looked at when I was in the Trump administration. It cost the taxpayer $1 billion a day in fraud, waste, and abuse. Mandatory telework, it would be one of the first things I would vote to repeal.
I love it. That sounds great. And so you think your likely opponent, who's your likely opponent?
Well, the Democrat, he's basically raised so much money that he's chased away the whole rest of the field. His name is Ben Ray Lujan. He's a congressman from northern New Mexico. My wife says he's a totally worthless Latino because he doesn't speak Spanish and he can't dance. And I was the U.S. Country Western Dance Champion in 2012.
Nice.
So actually, I just ran into Sean Spicer here a little bit. We were talking about his time with Dancing in the Stars.
Oh, nice. I hope I get to run into him.
I would love to have coached him a little bit more. He probably would have lasted a few more rounds.
He's great. Well, listen, I'm wishing you the best of luck in your run for Senate. I think you are going to be a fantastic candidate. Quite frankly, I think you're going to kick ass.
Well, that's the plan. And the thing is, I do have all the fancy degrees. Actually, I'm just a simple country boy with a couple fancy Eastern degrees. I was the first tribal member to ever get a doctorate at the Harvard Business School. But I'm not a fancy elitist because I'm the only doctoral graduate in the history of the Harvard Business School that did 4-H as a child and is placed in a livestock show.
Nice.
And my jacked up 4x4 was extra money to prove that I was not a Harvard man.
Excellent.
But if you get your listeners to go to GavinClarkson.com, that's GavinClarkson.com. We're getting support from all over the country because everybody recognizes that Senate races are national races. This is a chance to flip an open U.S. Senate seat over the Republicans. It is, in fact, the only open U.S. Senate seat in the country that the Democrats have to defend. So that's part of why I'm here at CPAC, is reaching out nationally to get people to invest in a chance to flip the open U.S. Senate seat over to the Republicans in New Mexico.
Excellent. Can we follow you on social media anywhere?
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Facebook. It's Dr. Gavin Clarkson. On Facebook, it's Gavin4NM, Gavin for New Mexico. It's at Dr. Gavin Clarkson on Twitter, and it's GavinClarkson.com on the web.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. And our last interview that I have is Senator Ted Harvey. You see him all the time on Fox. He is the chairman of the Committee to Defend the President and you can find out more information about Committee to Defend the President at the committeetodefendthepresident.com. But he is really fantastic, and he's going to give us a quick interview and his thoughts on the upcoming election. He is always a hoot, and this is the final interview. I wanted to make sure that I got to you guys. He did an excellent job. Without further ado, Senator Ted Harvey. Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Clapp, and I saved the best interview for last. The one and only Ted Harvey, chairman of the Committee to Defend the President. He's got probably the biggest job next to the actual president here in the United States. Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie.
Thank you for having me on. It's an honor.
Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to be here. This is part of our CPAC special.
Yes.
And of course, you're the last guest guest that I'm interviewing today. How has it been defending the president? There's been nothing to talk about.
Well, this president has been doing an incredible job for the last 3.5 years, despite how the media has been trying to destroy him, despite how Congress has been trying to destroy him, and the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and all of the intelligence industries across the world.
You know what? That's one of the only reasons why I toggle on the whether or not he was appointed by God thing. But then when you think about all of the people who have been against this man,
right,
whether or not he was placed there for a purpose, it's kind of, you can't really question it because he's got so much against him.
You know, I say that all the time. I don't think you can look at what happened in the Republican primary when he was running against 16 very formidable Republicans and won that primary, and then ran against Hillary Clinton, a very, very formidable candidate, and won that the way he did on election day.
Sure.
I don't think you can look at that and not see the hand of God in the way that he won those elections.
And not only that, but to take a look at the Mueller report.
Right.
It's stupid, dumb, ridiculous impeachment.
And the Horowitz report that shows that the FBI, the NSA, and the CIA was working to make sure that he was defeated in the 2016 election. And God overcame all of that.
Indeed. I mean, they've been investigating this man now for 3 years solid straight, and they've got nothing.
Yeah. I know if I were investigated to the extent that he was, they would find something.
I would be in big trouble as well. There would be some problems. There would be some questions. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
So, how do you think that he's doing with the coronavirus situation?
Well, I think the question is, how is China doing with the coronavirus? This is not an American issue. This is a China issue. The fact that China is the second largest economy on the face of the earth, that they are the manufacturer for every product that's made across the world, that is the problem. When they shut down and those manufacturing sites shut down, then Apple doesn't get their parts, Ford doesn't get their parts, GM doesn't get their parts, the world doesn't get their parts. And the economy will be incredibly impacted by this, but it's not Trump's fault that the economy is going to be impacted by this. This is, an act of God is what they call it in the insurance industry.
Sure.
There's nothing you can do about something like this. And the media and the Democrats are going to do everything they can to try to put it on Trump. But the American people are not stupid. The American people understand that Trump didn't coordinate with the Russians. He wasn't a Russian agent. He wasn't coordinating and putting pressure on the government of Ukraine to try to get involved in our elections, and they're not going to believe that Trump started the coronavirus, and it's his responsibility that people are getting sick around the world.
No, you're right. The majority of American people are very wise, and they understand that for sure now. There's some people who are still, for some reason, watching MSNBC and CNN.
And they also understand that MSN and New York Times and the Time magazine are nothing more than propaganda tools of the Democrat Party. And if Trump has done anything in his administration, that's the success that he is giving to society, is he's calling out the media for who they are.
And he's calling out the situation with China. I mean, you hate to be opportunistic when it comes to some kind of issue like the coronavirus, but for sure, when you're looking at this, we're going, wait a minute, 80% of our meds come from China?
Yes.
Wait a minute, all of these supplies and things that we need really for our survival are coming from China? Maybe President Trump was on to something when he said we need to get a hold of our relationship with China.
Yes. And honestly, thank God that he started to change the supply chain 2 years ago, so that companies were going to Japan, companies were going to Singapore, they're going to Mexico to start their warehouses and their manufacturing rather than staying in China, where now we're going to have some serious problems.
Yep, we surely are, but we have to keep people in our prayers for sure about the coronavirus.
I have a nephew that is there. He teaches English in a school. It's a Christian school, but we're not going to say that.
You can say that here.
It's shut down. The school is shut down. There's no kids coming to the school, so all of the teachers are in the school, bored to death, not having anything to do. But that is just a microcosm of what's happening across the entire country.
I think they should do that in my school as a precaution.
Is that what you
I'm
think?
not just saying that because I'm an educator and I want to have a month off and be bored.
But that tells you how serious the issue
But it
is
is.
in China. It's a serious issue, and they need to be in our prayers, no doubt about it.
No, they
I was listening to. I don't want to go down a tangent. You don't want to go down, but I was listening to an interview of a guy who runs one of the crematoriums in the town where the virus started, and there's 3 crematoriums in that town. And this one crematorium was cremating 120 individuals a day. And this was about 2 weeks ago. So imagine if the other 2 were doing the same. That's 400 plus people that they're cremating every single day in that town.
So
that's one town.
It sounds to me like China may not be being completely honest about how many fatalities they're having due to this virus.
I guarantee you that's the case.
That's not good.
But thankfully, they are reaching out to the international medical world and saying we need help. This is a serious problem. And obviously it's a serious problem because it's spreading around the world. Massive amounts of cases in Italy for some reason. Massive amount of cases in Iran. This could be a pandemic that could be a serious issue for the world.
It really could.
But it's not Trump's fault.
It's not Trump's fault. But and quite frankly, I'm going to be honest. I don't know who I would rather have in charge of the United States at this particular time in our history than President Trump and Mike Pence, running the coronavirus, taking charge over protecting the American people from the coronavirus. So I think it's a good idea. How do you think next year's election looks? What do you think about the Democrat side of the race and who President Trump might be running against? I can't say that without laughing because I just look at that whole side of the aisle and think, who is going to be able to beat him?
Well, I do think it's interesting that Obama hasn't gotten involved in this race yet, that he hasn't endorsed anybody in this race, that his former vice president, that he said was the best decision he's ever made to pick Joe Biden as his running mate, and the president hasn't gotten involved at any point in this election. He's not opened his mouth. He's not said a word until this week when my PAC runs a commercial that has the president's voice talking about the historical efforts of the Democrats simply to pander to the African American community in order to get elected. But once they get elected, they provide nothing to fulfill the promises that they made. And the worst culprit of that is Joe Biden.
Absolutely.
And you look what he has been doing down in South Carolina for years, trying to win the vote in South Carolina. And then when he gets elected, he supports segregationists. He supports the criminal justice reform bills of the 90s, all of them, which put massive amounts of African Americans in jail and totally disproportionate to what their population is in our society. And then he wants to come back down there now and try to say that he is the savior of the African American.
And then he goes down there with a sense of entitlement, they have, as many Democrats do.
So my PAC is running this commercial down there, pointing out all of those truths, and finally, all of a sudden, Obama finds his voice and says, "I'm going to get involved in this election," and calls out our PAC, tells us that we have to stop running this commercial with his voice, speaking the truth, and they send us a cease and desist order just about 30 minutes before us coming on.
Oh, he's a comedian as well.
And the media is literally freaking out. They're melting down over us running this commercial because they know if Biden loses in South Carolina and loses the African American vote in South Carolina, he is going to lose this election. So Obama finally gets out and comes out and tries to attack us for attacking Biden.
Oh my goodness! Well, I can't wait to see who's going to win. Do you think it'll be a Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump race? Do you think it'll be a Joe Biden?
No.
What do you think?
I've said since day one, Bloomberg is going to be the nominee of the Democratic Party. As soon as he got in, all the rest of them are left-wing whack jobs.
Yes, they are.
That the average Democrat, the average unaffiliated, moderate voter out there is never going to support these whack jobs. And name one. They're a whack job.
Yeah, I agree.
And then after tomorrow's election in South Carolina, when they have the vote, and Biden may win by a little bit, but he may lose, I believe it's going to be Bernie Sanders and going into Super Tuesday, and it'll be Bloomberg. And Bloomberg's been spending millions and millions of dollars in these Super Tuesday states. Bernie is got a huge base, but that's spread out across the country. It's an inch thin.
True.
So when you go into these Super Tuesday states where Bloomberg has been spending so much money, I don't see how anybody can do it.
Oh my goodness.
And then I announced 2 weeks ago that he picked Clinton to be his running mate, and then the next day, I said that on Fox News. Clinton will be his running mate, and then the next day, the Drudge Report came out and said that was who he was looking at. So,
oh my goodness! Please,
we'll
please pick Hillary as his running mate. I would love to see that. Well, listen, Mr. Ted Harvey, Senator Ted Harvey, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you coming to visit
Always a
my
pleasure.
CPAC special. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
God bless.
Bless you. And I want to thank everyone who listened to the show today. I want to thank my guest, Eric Rigard. I want to thank my one of my sponsors, the Tax Mama, Eva Rosenberg. Sign up for one of her classes at irsexams.school. And I want to thank everyone who's listening to the show. If you're listening to this via download, Doug Poss in the Facey chat. Thank you so much, Carl Mitchell. Thank you so much, Pastor Carl, for hanging out with me. And everyone who's listening to this via download, I appreciate your support very much. Remember, all of this is very important because it's your money. Have a great night.